This is the only movie that made 9 people watch it through, but 10 people cry in fear, an intense and shocking film with extreme content. Just because they moved into a new home, a once harmonious family of 5 completely turned into ruthless killers against one another. The plot is tightly woven, full of twists and turns, catching the audience completely off guard and leaving them shocked until the very end. The story starts off with an adrenaline rush. A family of 5 moves into a new house. Everything goes smoothly during the day, but at night, the sound of chopping meat keeps coming from next door, making their hair stand on end and leaving them sleepless. The husband wanted to confront the neighbor, but since they had just moved in, Myung-ju didn't want to cause any conflict. But tolerance did not bring peace. The next morning, they found an animal carcass hanging by the window. The second daughter, Hyun-ju, was so frightened that she fainted on the spot, though fortunately she was okay. However, when the family drove back from the hospital, they found that the neighbor had not only taken their parking space, but also crushed the chair their son had placed to save the spot. This time, Gang-gu couldn't take it anymore. He went to the neighbor's house to confront him. As soon as he stepped in, he was hit by a strong stench. Even more shocking, the entire yard was filled with animal carcasses. On a nearby fake mountain, terrifying faces were carved into the stone, giving Gang-gu chills down his spine. Still, wanting to protect his family from further disturbance, he gathered his courage and knocked on the door. When no one answered, he pushed the door open himself. Inside, it was even more horrifying. Bloodstains were everywhere on the floor, leaving no clean spot to stand on. Countless animal bodies hung from the beams. While he was still in shock, something suddenly poked him in the back. Seeing a living person, Gang-gu let out a sigh of relief. But the man's cold expression quickly sent another chill down his spine. He said to the man, "Don't take my parking spot," and then left. Gang-gu thought this would make the neighbor behave. But that night, the familiar chopping sounds returned, driving him to call the police. Other disturbed neighbors also stepped up in support. This time, the man next door completely changed his demeanor, bowing and apologizing repeatedly to the neighbors. Gang-gu was not willing to let it go and reported the man for animal abuse and having carcasses all over his house. But when the police went in to investigate, all the bodies in the yard had mysteriously vanished, and the house looked unusually clean.
너 이거 다 언제 치웠어?
The police believed the noise was from a loom disturbing the neighbors and warned the man not to work late at night again.
저기요. 제가 낮에 분명히 봤어요. 닭이 죽어서 피가 막 뚝뚝 떨어져 있고 짐승을 껍질을 벗겨서 여기다 이렇게 매달아 놨어요.
Although Gang-gu tried hard to explain, the facts before the police left them unconvinced, and they even warned Gang-gu not to make false reports. Though frustrated, there was nothing more he could do. But no one noticed the man's lips curling into a sinister smile. That night, while Hyun-ju was sleeping, her blanket was mysteriously pulled away. At first, she didn't think much of it and pulled the blanket back without even opening her eyes. But the next second, the blanket was completely yanked off. As Hyun-ju sat up to check, her hair was suddenly pulled. Her own father was staring at her with a strange look. The next second, his gaze slowly shifted toward her lower body.
우리 딸 잘 컸네.
Fortunately, he didn't do anything further and simply walked out of the room. Hyun-ju lay frozen in bed, unable to understand why her once gentle father had become like this. The next morning, her father acted like nothing had happened, even joking around with her. Hyun-ju didn't confront him, but left angrily. But the usually gentle and graceful mother was acting strange as well. She devoured her breakfast ravenously, with no regard for her appearance. When her son Woo-jong merely complained that the food was too salty, Myung-ju shoved more food into her mouth and even tried to force her son to eat all of it. Gang-gu comforted his son and said he didn't have to eat. Myung-ju suddenly went into a rage and knocked over all the food.
엄마가 괜찮다고 하면 잔말 말고 처먹을 것이지 어디서 반찬 투정이야. 내가 니들을 어떻게 먹이고 키웠는데.
여보 왜 그래?
But that night, when Gang-gu got home from work, his wife was laughing cheerfully while watching TV, as if nothing had happened. He tried asking her about what happened that morning, but Myung-ju claimed she had left early and didn't even make breakfast. Gang-gu thought she was just avoiding the topic and didn't press further. What he didn't know was that Myung-ju was telling the truth, and this house no longer only held the 5 of them. At this moment, Sunwoo is taking a shower, but she can't shake the feeling that someone is secretly watching her.
뭐야? 왜 그래? 죽여버리라고.
Hyunju, who was harassed by her father the night before, also starts acting strangely. But when Sunwoo gets dressed and goes to find Hyunju, Hyunju insists she never left the room and even tells her sister about how their father pulled her blanket last night. Sunwoo, of course, doesn't believe her and says maybe Hyunju just had a nightmare, but Hyunju adds that their mother was acting weird this morning too. It's like both parents have been possessed. Sunwoo starts to doubt as well since she also witnessed her mother's strange behavior earlier. Just then, their father suddenly barges into the room. The two sisters can't believe that their own father is yelling at them like this. As they stand frozen, not knowing what to do, he suddenly grabs a utility knife and charges at them. Sunwoo pushes her father down with all her strength, but as they flee the room, he suddenly appears in front of them again. Without a word, Gang-gu picks up Sunwoo with one hand and throws her down the stairs. She lands hard and loses consciousness. Hyunju doesn't have time to check on her sister and quickly runs downstairs to hide. Gang-gu follows soon after, carrying a hammer. Just as he's about to find her, the revived Sunwoo calls out in time, drawing their father back upstairs. In desperation, Hyunju grabs a frying pan and hits her father in the face, but it does nothing. The next moment, her father swings the hammer at her with full force. Suddenly, their father's voice came from downstairs again. The one in front of her stops and turns into a nearby room. Then, Gang-gu comes up from downstairs and sees his two daughters still trembling. Confused, he steps forward and steps on the hammer. He notices the hole in the door and questions whether the girls had been fighting, but he still hasn't realized that the thing they fear most is him. Just then, Woo-jong appears and breaks the tension. While Gang-gu tries to explain the situation, his daughters quietly urge their brother to go back quickly. At that moment, someone picks up the hammer. It's Myungju, who also came upstairs after hearing the commotion. Without a word, she swings the hammer at Gang-gu. To protect the children, Gang-gu endures several heavy blows before finally pushing his wife away in frustration. But Myungju doesn't attack again, and the once fragile wife walks barefoot over shattered glass without feeling a thing. Just as she enters a room, another version of Myungju walks up from downstairs. Gang-gu is completely baffled, but when he pushes open the room door, the earlier Myungju is nowhere to be seen, though the hammer is still there. At this point, Gang-gu finally realizes that something evil has invaded their home, most likely connected to their neighbors. Thankfully, his younger brother Jung-soo is a priest, so he calls him for help. After hearing about the strange occurrences, Jung-soo believes an evil entity has entered their home, one that can freely shapeshift. He advises everyone to sleep together at night to prevent the demon from taking on their appearance and hurting anyone. Jung-soo then heads to the neighbor's house alone, but the moment he arrives, a cold wind blows through, and the inside is just as Gang-gu described, filled with corpses. And the neighbor's corpse was already decaying. After seeing the photos on the ground, Jung-soo pieces together what happened. The demon possessed the entire family, turning them against each other. In the end, the demon took on the man's appearance to torment the neighbors. Back at Gang-gu's house, everyone sleeps in the living room. Suddenly, Woo-jong gets up to go to the bathroom, but as he walks away, another Woo-jong appears. The fake Woo-jong holds a knife and hovers it over Jung-soo's forehead. But protected by divine power, the demon can't harm him and leaves in frustration. The next second, Jung-soo opens his eyes. It turns out everything was under his control, and he even recorded it all on camera. Now everyone believes the house is indeed haunted by a demon, and Jung-soo decides to perform an exorcism. Worried he might not be able to handle it alone, he contacts a fellow believer abroad for assistance. The friend agrees and says he'll arrive that very night. Jung-soo instructs Hyunju to search the basement for a cross to temporarily ward off the demon while he goes to the airport to pick up his friend. Before leaving, Jung-soo secretly tells Gang-gu that Sunwoo is likely the demon, because he had added holy water to everyone's cup that morning, and she was the only one who didn't drink it. He asks Gang-gu to keep a close watch on Sunwoo until he returns. But no sooner has he left than something happens to Hyunju in the basement. Meanwhile, Gang-gu is focused on watching Sunwoo. When she insists on leaving, He even knocks her out. Despite his wife's protests, he ties Sunwoo to the bed. Elsewhere, although Jung-soo successfully picked up his friend, their car was attacked by a large flock of crows on the way back, but to others on the road, it simply looks like their car is wildly out of control, eventually crashing off the road in a terrible accident. Worried about his brother's family, Jung-soo rushed back in a panic, leaving his injured friend behind at the crash site.
다들 사람들은 오다가 사고가 났어. 나만 겨우 여기로 온 거라고.
Seeing that Sunwoo was already tied up, Jung-soo had no choice but to begin the exorcism alone. He first sprinkled holy water over Sunwoo, then began whipping her with a vine branch. Myung-ju couldn't bear to watch and tried to stop him, but Gang-gu suspected she was possessed and shoved her against the wall, knocking her out. But when he turned back around, he saw a sinister, satisfied smile on Jung-soo's face. It turned out the real Jung-soo was still unconscious at the crash site. The one standing before Gang-gu was actually the demon in disguise. Gang-gu told his son to run and then charged at the demon without hesitation. But he was no match. Thankfully, Woo-jong did as he was told and escaped. The demon didn't chase him right away, instead picking up a sharp shard, ready to kill Gang-gu. At the critical moment, a passage from the Bible echoed through the air.
주님! 교만한 눈과 거짓된 혀에 속지 않게 하시고 무죄한 자의 피를 흘리는 손을 자르고 발을 끊어 악으로부터 구원하소서! 주님 몰아내주소서!
The real Jung-soo had finally returned, and his chants temporarily repelled the demon. The two brothers then went to the basement to look for Woo-jong, but instead found Hyunju's burned body inside the furnace. Before they could grieve, a battered and bloodied Sunwoo appeared. She demanded to know why her father would do this to her. Gang-gu was filled with guilt, speechless. But Jung-soo, standing nearby, used the Bible to force out her true form. It turned out this Sunwoo was once again the demon in disguise. But this time, the demon didn't run away. Instead, it chose to battle Jung-soo head-on. Prepared and powerful, the demon quickly overwhelmed Jung-soo, who struggled to hold his ground. Gang-gu couldn't just stand by. He found a long hidden bottle of holy water in a nearby crate and poured it all over the demon. The demon screamed in agony, giving Jung-soo a chance to escape danger, but he knew full well he couldn't defeat the demon. He removed his protective crucifix and prayed to the Lord, sealing the demon within his own body. But the demon quickly fought for control, and Jung-soo was momentarily overtaken. In the end, by sheer willpower, Jung-soo reclaimed his body, broke the crucifix, and sacrificed himself with the help of his brother. The demon was finally and completely destroyed. In the final scene, Gang-gu walks out of the basement with his son. His wife and Sunwoo have also survived by a stroke of luck. As the three of them embrace, Gang-gu is still overwhelmed with sorrow. He has lost a heroic brother and a beloved daughter.